Hello and welcome to the MyClayCo studio. My name is Carla and today I'm going to be taking you through how to make beautiful snake earrings using our snake threads tool. Now if you haven't seen the snake threads tool, it is a 3D printed tool that you can wind your polymer clay around to make snakes. There are a couple of steps that make it a little bit easier, so I'm going to take you through that today. Let's get into it. Okay, before we get making, I did just quickly want to touch on jigs. So the snake thread guide that we will be using today is actually a type of jig. So you most likely are familiar with the rainbow jig, which is just an arch. A lot of people even make these out of polymer clay, and all you do is you form your polymer clay around that arch, and then you would use your tissue blade to maneuver around and lift it off, and you have a perfect arch shape every time. So that's kind of your most basic jig. We then moved into the slightly more difficult ones like flowers and snakes. And when we started with flowers, they were all like this. And when we were designing them, we thought, this is hard. We were trying to work with it, and it was hard to get everything off because the rainbow one is easy to get things off. This one, you had to go around a lot of things and it was too hard. So we decided to add our base plate. And it made it so much easier because you could actually form it, remove the piece, and then all you have to do is slide your blade across a flat surface. So it's just removing those prongs. So when we made the snake threads, it was a no-brainer. We did the same thing and just added our plates on. Now, that is not to say if you just had a jig that was like this, it's not to say that it wouldn't work. It's just that it will make your life a lot easier if you have the snake threads that have the base plate on them. All right, that's enough talking about jigs. Let's get into it. So I'm going to be creating some strawberry patch themed snakes today. So I've just mixed up this lovely pink color so it is fully conditioned. And what I'm going to do is to form my snakes so that they are nice and uniform is I'm going to use an extruder. Now this is not necessary. I just like to use an extruder because then I know that I've got perfect like snake logs to begin with. And the extruder head that I use is this like single fatter one. Now, when you extrude it, we can then taper off the end and form the head. If you are doing it without an extruder, you can simply roll, and I will say roll from the middle out to try and keep it nice and uniform when you are forming a log. Okay, so I extruded my clay. I've just kind of cut it into some more manageable pieces. And I will say that if you are wondering, we've got the thickness, if you're wondering how we get the length of it, generally I just use the actual thread guide itself, the length of it, and I just chop. And this is just a rough guide because we are going to taper the ends. But now we have two that are pretty much the same size, and now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to work this to taper the end. To taper the end, it's not that difficult. All we need to do is just grab a flat work surface. I like to work on a tile, and all you're going to be doing is from the end, just rolling on one side only. I kind of have my hand here, not pressing down at all, just to kind of control this end so it's not wiggling around everywhere. And I just use two fingers to kind of taper out that end. And we don't need to go really skinny. I generally will go to about, let's see how we go. I'll generally go to about that. So this is a pretty good snake shape. It kind of looks like an earthworm at the moment. But once we put our decorations on, we'll be changing that. Okay, so I've got this one. I'm just going to work on my second one. Okay, so I've got my second one now. It doesn't really matter how necessarily long or short they are as long as they can go around your thread guide, but it is important to try and make your two snakes as similar in length as possible. So as you can see, my bottom one is slightly longer. So all I'm going to do is find one of the fat parts and just taper it out a little bit. So now I've got two that are pretty much the same length. The next step we're going to be doing is actually forming the heads. So I'm just going to pull these over here. I'll make it so that they do have the same size length. And this is all I do to form the head. I actually just pinch the front of that. You can see how it's kind of already forming a little bit of a point. And then I have rotated it over and I'm doing the same. Again, rotate, I do the same. And all I'm really doing is just trying to create a kind of pointed end. You want to think like a blunted pencil almost. So it's kind of like this. And do that on the other one. So as you can see here, I have two kind of blunted pencil type heads. And I'm actually going to slightly flatten this because at the moment they are just, they don't have a neck. They're quite thick. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab my plate from my thread guides. I've lined up my snake heads there and I'm just going to press down. And as you can see, obviously they're like squashed now. But if you've ever seen a snake in real life or a picture of a snake, they do have a slightly thinner area right behind where their head is. So what I'm then going to do is I'm just going to roll that. And what that does is it actually softens this flat edge that we've got here and it will make like a thinner neck area. And I just do the same on this one. All right, and as you can see here, now I've got two snake heads. And they've got that really nice like flat top, still pointed at the edges, and the necks are a little bit thinner. Now, if you did want to go through and make the bodies thinner in any area, you can do that now because it doesn't matter how long it's going to really go. You could always chop it and retaper the ends, but we just want to make sure that they're the exact kind of shape and size that you want before we start forming them. All right, I've got my two snakes, so now it's time to go over to our snake threads. So I just want to take one of my snakes and I want to put the head above these two notches. And then just place your head kind of where you want it, because now we're going to start forming the snake. Now, the typical snake is we're going to wind, 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 and round. You can actually do a bunch of different shapes with this one though. So if you didn't want to do that, you could always do like a loop-de-loop at any point. I'm just going to do a standard one. So I've gone around that first outside. Drop it in, coming round the circle. Drop it in. Around here. And then finish him off here. Okay, so as you can see, I've got one snake done. And now I just go on to my second one. Now you can either leave your form here so that you can try and like match where the tails end and everything, or you can take it off. I'm going to leave it just so I can try and make sure that my heads and ends of my tails are matched up nicely. I've got that one matched in. So now I'm going around. Okay, and as you can see, this one has a little bit more length at the end. So I'm just going to extend that one so it's got a similar end point. But that is my pair of snakes. So now what I generally do is I just kind of press it down so that I know that it's attached to this base plate and it's not going to try and stick to any of these parts, which it can kind of want to do because of the shape of it. So once I'm happy with where that is, I wiggle and wiggle. And so now I've got my snakes ready and I just need to transfer them to my tile. Now this is the bit that's easy now that we've got them on here, because all I'm going to be doing is shuffling my blade under transferring, and then doing the same with this one. I'm going to go left-handed. All right, so now I've got my pair of snakes. Again, you can just kind of work those bottom pieces to where you want them. If you did want to, you could even just like move them around to wherever. I might actually pivot these ones around, because why not? That's the good thing about the thread guides, is that you can make them with the thread guides, but then you can change them to suit your style or what shape you want. Same with the heads. I might just move them in slightly. All right, that's a pretty cute pair of snakes. Okay, now that the actual forms are done, we're just going to decorate them. So if you did see my reel the other week, I made some really cute ones for fall, or autumn as we call it here in Australia. So I did some really cute pumpkins on those ones. I'm going to make these a strawberry patch, so I'm going to make some strawberries and stick them on with some flowers. So my snakes are all done. I think they look pretty adorable. Now I've just put a little bit of polymer clay in each of the flowers, but you could use caviar beads if you wanted to. But I just wanted to keep it nice and cute with the polymer clay. I will give you one tip that will make it easier to put findings in afterwards. I tend to like to use short screw pins to attach to the front here so that I can dangle them. And all I do is I just put a small indent with a needle tool at the front, so it means that I've kind of like pre-tapped the screw, if that makes sense. So it's already got a nice spot for it to screw in, rather than me trying to do it on firm baked polymer clay. So our little snakes are all baked up. Now all I have to do is actually turn them into earrings. And as you can remember, we put the little like tap in first. And this just makes it easier if we bring in some screw eye pins, because they're a little bit shorter and we can screw them in to secure without glue or anything, or turning the actual eye pin metal itself. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to place it in that space that I already had. And I'm just going to twist my snake, and I can feel it screwing in. And then every now and then you just want to check how straight it's going. And make sure that it's not going to poke out this way. But because I already put that hole in before baking it, It's really nice and straight. So now I've got a pin on the top here, so that means all I have to do is attach a jump ring to that one and a hook or whatever piece that I want to actually put on. Now, if you didn't have screw pins or don't necessarily like working with them, you could also do this with an eye pin. It's just that you would put it fully in before it's baked, and then you would have to slide it out after baking and glue that one in with a trusty super glue. Now, I don't generally prefer to do this method anymore. I tend to go with screw pins because they're a little bit more secure, but if eye pins is all you have on hand, then that is completely fine to do that method as well. One last tip that I like to do with my snakes is rather than have the circle facing the front, if I want to have it on the side like this so it looks a little bit cleaner and a little bit more like a serpent tongue coming out, then I actually get one of these and open up the loop that's on the front so that when I put it on, I just have to reclose this loop, and it means that it negates needing to put a jump ring on this one. And it means it's really clean and all in one piece. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video today and that you can now create with a little bit more confidence when using snake thread guides. If you did have any questions or comments about today's video, you can always drop them in the comments down below. And we would love for you to like and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy today's video, as it helps us bring more polymer clay tutorials to you. We will see you next time. Bye.